See, now that she can't just cater to the right wing exclusively, she's going to just cater not to evangelicals, but to Catholics, and then, you know, ask them for money because she's independently funded. So from a traumatized boy, which I think I am at this point. Hey, as my first submission here, I bring you some sketches and drawings of slime Suris. These are adorable. These are adorable. Look at this lad. Look at this lad. Look at him. He's asleep. He's asleep. It's so cute. Well, thank you for untraumatizing us, a traumatized boy. But we have one more piece of fan art to get into, and this one is from Unseen, also known as Doom Prophet. The first half blocked out for Dungeon Master Suris. Still have 4 or 5 pieces to finish, and then properly scan all the images in. Hope to finish by the subathon. This was made while I was still doing the subathon. This is why we're starting to do 2 fan art pieces an episode. I need to get through these faster. We will show the full completed version later, but we've got Dungeon Master Suris, we've got Slime Suris here, we've got Ocean Keltoy sitting here, and Raz is the rogue. Raz is the rogue here. Is this an Attack on Titan reference? No, that's just a thing Dungeon Masters hide behind so they can roll die and lie to you about the nat 20 they definitely didn't roll, but they didn't want to kill your character that quickly because they're a good fucking person. As always, thank you all for your fan art submissions. It is greatly appreciated. If you want your fan art to be shown on a future episode, the best way you can do that is to submit it into the fan art section of the Discord. Kaitlin Bennett made a video on her Liberty Hangout channel called It's Time to Talk. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Kaitlin Bennett, she is the, we're going to go ahead and say Nazi and asterisk, because while her, and by extension, the Liberty Hangout channel in various chats has had quite the amount of anti-Semitism spewed out of it, it's very hard to pin some of that stuff directly on Kaitlin specifically, because luckily for her, it's ran by her and her partner. So it makes it easier for plausible deniability, I guess. With that out of the way, you might know her more and better as Gun Girl, the person who would go onto campuses wielding a rifle and walking around and taking photos with it, because apparently that's either A, the thing that makes dudes horny these days, or, you know, B, well, I can, so I should. Okay, isn't she pro-monarchy? Yes, she literally said that Trump should annex Florida and become the emperor of Florida. Alrighty. Kaitlin Bennett. I already did my preamble. I don't need to talk more about this person. But speaking of talking, her video is called It's Time to Talk. So Kaitlin, if it's time to talk, then let us talk.
For us to have a talk.
Okay.
A talk about 1, where I've been, and 2, my thoughts on the direction of the MAGA movement. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately, and there are some things that need to be addressed.
Oh? Is this going to be a moment of self-reflection about how you've actually been contributing a lot of rhetoric to a hate movement, and you've been a huge problem there, and maybe you're going to be taking a Hunter Avalone style of approach where you reevaluate what you do and realize that you've cultivated an audience of toxic supremacists who really do need to be checked and need to be called out within your audience?
Now, it's no secret that I've been MIA for a little while.
Yep.
And I feel as though I owe you guys an explanation for why.
Okay.
Today, I want to get into half the reason why, and then my thoughts on where conservatism seems to be heading. And in a separate video, I'll tell you part 2 of where I've been, so be sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on that video.
So it's just going to be on YouTube. Okay.
Let's backtrack all the way to the beginning of the year, January to be exact. For those of you who remember, Liberty Hangout was demonetized on Facebook after big tech started coming down hard on pages that supported President Trump. While our monetization...
So I'm just going to say this right now. You were not demonetized for supporting President Trump. You were demonetized for the things that you were saying on that website that were deemed a breach of terms of service. It had nothing to do with Trump. This is a lovely defense that a lot of people, especially like on right-wing YouTube, get to do, where they say, I was only demonetized, I was only taken out of context, or I was only hit because I support the president. And then when you get into like the nitty-gritty of what they said, There's a lot more there that's being said than just I like President Trump. They're not just saying I liked that president. He was kind of neat. They're like, no, I think that he was right. We needed to deport all the Mexicans. And when we get them out, we need to tell them exactly what they need to do back in Mexico because they were not bringing their best. They were bringing their rapists.
Wasn't spared. Our page thankfully survived the purge, but we became increasingly weary about what we were allowed to post now that we felt like our whole livelihood was at stake. We started noticing that other like-minded creators were getting censored left and right for talking about the BLM riots, the response to COVID-19.
The BLM riots. See, this is a fun bit of framing. Remember how I talked about how it's all about framing just a second ago? When you say the BLM riots, what message comes to mind? What do you think is being communicated? Because if I say the BLM protests, it communicates the idea that by and large, these were protests. And while there may have been riots in them, they are not indicative of the whole. When you say the BLM riots, it assumes the opposite, that the riots are actually the largest thing, the more prominent thing that happened, and that the protests are the thing that are not indicative of the whole. Here's the thing, though, Kaitlin. By and large, the protests were protests and not riots. In fact, actually, less than 10% of them were violent. And of that less than 10% that were violent, a good portion of those could be attributed to outside sources of escalation as to why they became violent.
The 2020 election and literally every single topic that conservatives wanted to talk about. Since I don't have the luxury of being sponsored by large organizations like PragerU or Turning Point USA, we had to play it safe if we wanted to survive. I am 100% independent and backed by you guys and you guys only. And the relationship you and I have built over the last 3 years isn't something I felt ready to abandon just to get a few thousand views on some clickbait video.
She's definitely never wanted to abandon her audience. She's very, very faithful to her audience. She's doing it for you, actually.
So we took a backseat to politics and let the people funded by millionaires do the talking, and we would stick to some street interviews about less intense topics. And perhaps we played it too safe this year because we have taken way too long of a break, but nonetheless, here we still are.
You weren't playing it safe taking a break. I'm gonna go ahead and say laziness. I'm not gonna say you were just playing it safe. But this is a victim narrative thing. I was just trying to play it safe so I wouldn't lose my channel, so I just chose to upload no content because nothing I did felt like it wasn't going to get hit by the YouTube algorithm. Kaitlin, I talk about yikesy shit all the time on this platform, and I do not censor my language either. And yet, I don't seem to have this problem, but you do. I'm not terribly worried that my channel is going to get shut down outside of like false flags. And yeah, apparently she had COVID-19 at one point during this too. Do you think maybe that's a reason you weren't doing things for a while? You were sick?
And over the course of my break, I have been able to dedicate a lot of time to new and exciting chapters in my life, which I wouldn't be able to share with you had I gotten myself banned from social media. The first and most important thing to happen during my break is that I stopped being an atheist.
Oh, so you were an atheist before?
And dedicated my life to Jesus Christ. I'm not even sure how many of you knew I was an atheist, but...
No, considering how much you stand the Christian right, I had no problem believing that you were a radical Christian. I had zero problems believing that. But now that I know that you were doing that while being an atheist, the grift is in perspective.
But I'm sure it's rather shocking. This is why in my debates about abortion over the past 3 years, you have never heard me bring up religion. I want to make a separate video getting into the details about my conversion, but I've been spending an incredible amount of time learning, asking questions, saying sorry to God, and attending Mass.
I've spent a lot of time apologizing for being a piece of shit while I was an atheist. Let's not apologize for the actual things that I'm a piece of shit about.
I started the RCIA program to be confirmed into the Catholic Church next year, and I'm so excited to share more of that with you all as the journey progresses. The second thing that happened was that I asked myself what my absence from YouTube would mean to you guys watching, to politics in general, and to the country. I came up with nothing of value, and it really made me think, am I...
Wait, She actually self-actualized and realized that if her channel disappeared right now, nothing of value would be lost? Color me impressed.
Just making videos to have something to post? Yep. Am I even doing something genuine to my heart? No. Can I provide better, more meaningful content to the world? Yes, I can. It's hard to describe, but I feel that I have more to offer you all through my content than just complaining about the news of the week like every single other political commentator on the internet. What good am I doing by telling you what you should be mad about this week? What good am I doing by showing you how mentally unstable college students are when I step onto their campus?
When you step onto their campus, how mentally unstable they are? Oh, we have the ableism. And yeah, Kaitlin, you had an open carry gun. You harassed people.
We all know how deluded they've been for years.
How deluded they've been for years? Okay, yeah, no. This is the anti-intellectualism part. This is the those in the ivory tower know not what they do shit.
Let's be honest. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I want to offer you guys something that brings me joy to create, something different that you can get from me that you can't get from the other dozens of conservative YouTubers. Now, I won't be stopping my pop quiz on the beach videos. I love the good-hearted nature of those. I won't even stop going to rallies when they eventually pop up again, but I want to create a new type of conservative content that leaves the viewer happier after watching the video than when they clicked on the video.
So we're going to be trying to make people's lives more wholesome. That's, you know what? Let's see where this goes. Let's see where it goes.
Something I've noticed ever since Joe Biden has become president is that in a lot of ways, the right now stands where the left did for the last 4 years. We are pessimistic, we are mad, we are discouraged about the future.
Good.
And we have even become dominated by our emotions.
Good. That was this. Oh, I'm sorry, Kaitlin. That was what was happening when y'all were under Trump. Y'all were dominated by your fucking emotions that whole time, too. You just didn't have the same pessimism. Except you kind of did, because the victim narrative is what made a lot of stuff spark during that.
Now, don't get me wrong, I do not think conservatives will get anywhere near as emotional as Democrats did in 2020.
Yeah, you say that, but
I do see us trending down a path that we're better than, and I think we have so much more to offer our country than expletives and outrage. Something I was thrilled to discover this year is that your happiness should not depend on who is in the Oval Office.
You know, it's funny. Your happiness depends on who's in the Oval Office for the longest time, up until the point where you lose. And then suddenly when you lose, you're like, it really shouldn't matter to me this much. But then as soon as somebody you want in the Oval Office comes along again, it's gonna matter again at that point. I'm sorry.
Your joy shouldn't come from a political party or the policies that they enact. Now, while we may need Trump to keep more of our money and our freedom, we don't need Trump to be happy and in good spirits.
We may need Trump to keep more of our happy and our freedom, or our money and our freedom. What freedoms have you lost under Biden? What money have you lost under Biden? And yeah, they do seethe over Biden constantly. It's kind of agitating. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't like Biden either. My vote for Biden was not a vote for Biden. It was a vote against Trump. Make no mistake. My gas prices? Ah, yes, because the gas prices are definitely 100% ruled by Biden. Biden wakes up in the morning, he sees the gas prices fleshlight, and he just fucks it right up every time. And that, when he does that, it makes the gas prices go up. That's what happens. Every time, definitely.
The only thing we need for that is the love of God and the support of family. This is where I feel as though I differ from so many conservative creators out there. I have never centered my identity around politics, but about the things I genuinely believe in.
Kaitlin? Those are not the same. Those are the same thing. I just about said those are not the same thing. Those are the same thing. Look. The things that you believe in the most are your politics. Yeah, all her merch was MAGA related. Everything was centered around politics. Kaitlin, your entire identity was political. Your entire identity was political. Also, which god is not a good argument here. She said that she's Catholic. We know she means Yahweh. With how much of your life was based entirely around Trump, around worshiping him as though he were a god, celebrating every political thing he did, echoing things said by people like Lauren freaking Southern, and you come here and have the audacity to say that, no, it's just love of family you need. The only reason you're saying that is because you lost. This is copium. You are taking the copium into your mouth right now. You are enjoying a good breath of it. You don't get to do this thing where you pretend like politics is not this important thing, and you get to go, I'm not being political. I'm just talking about all of the things that I personally really believe in. But if all the things you've personally really believe in just happen to be political in nature, like who should be allowed to immigrate into the United States, how easy it should be for them to immigrate, what we should do about low-income neighborhoods, things like that,
and the things that bring me happiness. That's why I love sharing my wedding with you and the ways my husband and I are able to complete each other.
And the ways that you don't know how to cook. That one was kind of funny. That's a personal attack, though. That's not fair. That's not really fair. What I do want to say, though, Kaitlin, is that showing that stuff, that more vloggy style stuff, is nice. It's wonderful. Here's my problem. This feels very wolf in sheep's clothing of you, though. Because we know what the wolf is in you. We know the part of you that is toxic and has a tendency to be the reason that people, like, literally look at you as shitty poop pants gun girl. The reason that happens is because of the things you say, the ways you comport yourself, all of that. And if none of that is actually changing, all that's changing is what you're showing at the surface, then all you're doing is putting on the sheep's clothing.
And I don't say this to toot my own horn, but because I truly wish everyone could be as happy as I am, and hyper-focusing on what to be outraged with just isn't the way to accomplish that. I will explain.
I agree with that point, at least. I just don't believe she's happy.
More in my next video, but I feel that coming to Jesus has allowed me to look at things from a brand new perspective.
Okay.
Nothing could ever happen against the will of God. So if Joe Biden is the man in the White House and the Democrats are destroying what's left of the country, then there must be a reason why a loving God would ask us to undergo these difficulties.
All right, Kaitlin, I'm going to take exactly what you said, and I'm going to reframe it to something that I said when I was 16 years old. Trigger warning for anybody who does not like hearing about sexual assault. But if you've waddled me long enough, then you've heard me talk about this before. There was a time in my life where I had a friend who got raped. And my answer to this friend was that was part of God's plan. As bad as it was, it happened for a reason. This is a real thing I told a real person, and somehow I was confused as to why our friendship did not last another year or two after that. These are real things that came out of my mouth 13 years ago. Kaitlin, what you said is no different. It is the exact same thing. All the bad things can happen and it's okay because God says that it's okay. Now, I understand that it's a funny own from the atheist side when you get to go, actually, your God wanted Biden in the office. Because it's not untrue and it's not outside that paradigm. But what I want you to consider is that when you're in that paradigm, yes, this means she's already making excuses for pedophile priests. Pedophile priests happen for a reason. God must have moved the Pope to move that person to Chile so that they could hurt another person. It was all part of their plan. The more people they hurt, the more their character grows or some shit. The apologetics are already there. The groundwork is there. And I know personally you can use that groundwork to excuse anything, because I know I did. And I was much, much less lost in terms of, like, my mentality than Kaitlin already is. I was more progressive than Kaitlin when I was right-wing, and I know how far I could take those apologetics. So seeing Kaitlin say the exact things I said when I was trying to give something that I thought could console a friend, but all it did was, it was literally the worst thing in the world I could have said, and one of the most illogical things I could have said. It kind of sucks seeing that again. It's weird seeing people slide into positions that I used to hold when I was a kid, when I considered myself young, dumb, and stupid.
And I found that the answer is right here on the cross. This right here is the image of true happiness, and this right here is why we should not be fearful, outraged, or emotional over the things happening to the country.
Remember, she just converted. She just converted to Catholicism in the last handful of months, and she's already doing this. This is only going to get worse, and yes, by this logic, torture is happiness. Look, if I were so inclined, I understand that Jesus being nailed by a bunch of Romans in plain sight of everyone else might have been the moment in which he was truly happy. I mean, it's certainly the longest he's ever been hung, but it doesn't change the fact that that is still torture.
Learn that hard times create opportunity for hope, because some of the greatest men to ever walk the earth, such as St. Peter and the apostles, would be completely unknown to us today if not for the hard times God asked them to go through.
Oh my God. We have that other fun meme. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. You know, that one, it's not there verbatim, but dear God, hearing anything close to that makes me cringe.
We should feel blessed to be counted among some of the holiest men to live, because our names may one day be remembered for the virtues we choose to live by. No one remembers the man who executed St. Maximilian Kolbe, but millions of people have heard the sacrifice he made to give his life to save an innocent man in a German prison camp.
Remember, you may one day be killed, but people will remember your name after you're long dead and can't give a shit about it anymore.
We have so much more reason to be hopeful than discouraged. The Democrats can take away your money, they can try to take away your guns, and they can try to take...
The Democrats have never taken away all the guns. Why is this always this is every time we get this thing? Oh, they're coming. They're going to do it this time. They're going to take your guns this time. Don't worry, this time they're going to get them. They're going to get them. Really? They're going to take the guns. Look, this has been a fear that has been propagated by Republicans for years upon years upon years. And as far as our money, yeah, they're not taking that away either. Most of the people here are not in the percentage. They're not in the tax bracket where they're going to be getting it. Statistically, most of the people who watch Kaitlin Bennett are not making $400,000 a year. They're not getting that. Also, fellas, thank you for the hydrate. Ayat05 and the Fluffy Oreo. Thank you guys for the follows. But most of the people are not going to be getting their any of their shit taken from the government. And even if they were, you can do things like itemized deductions to lower your taxable income.
Take away your freedom, but they can never...
Which freedoms that our prison system doesn't already take away from people?
Never take away your spirit, your joy, or your eternal salvation. Why give them the power they crave over you? As my priest would say, your joy is not their authority to take, so why volunteer it over? We don't go...
Okay, so I have to give it. I have to give it to Kaitlin. I have to. I do have to give it to you. This is actually a piece of solid advice. I have to be fair to Kaitlin here. the advice that you are at least partially responsible for how much you allow other people to affect you, how much you let them dictate your time and your life, that is actually not terrible advice. Like, as an example, if you happen to be very upset by a lot of the things you see people say on Twitter, you do have the ability to mute some of those threads. If they are not directly, like, aimed at you or a group that you are a part of, it's just things that make you mad generally, you have the ability to mute those. You do have some control over that. And there's other things you can do about them. You can, even if you don't want to ignore the things that are being said, you can do things like categorize all the things people have said and then make fun of them one by one. You have healthy ways of dealing with that. So while I'm not going to say that information is coming from a priest, I will say that's not terrible advice.
Go to the grave with our money or our guns anyway. What we do go there with is our faith and our happiness. I could have spent the year making clickbait videos about this or that thing that the Biden administration is doing, or all the stupid things AOC has said, but I've gained something far greater than views, followers, or income this year, which I hope to now share with you. I ask that you guys stay with me as I navigate how to bring you the content you're here for, but with a new element added that glorifies Christ and leads more people to Him. I'll see you soon for part 2, and I can't wait to share my journey to Catholicism with you all.
So she's going to be turning into a Christian apologetics channel because that makes everything better. Well, this is going to be interesting. Seeing apolitical atheist YouTube jump back on this is going to be fun. See, now that she can't just cater to the right wing exclusively, she's going to just cater not to evangelicals, but to Catholics, and then, ask them for money because she's independently funded. I guess this is what Kaitlin wanted to tell us all. Lizzie, what do you think? Did you get anything out of that? He must be sleeping. Anyways, now I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below, because I've given my thoughts over the past 40 minutes.